Hello and welcome to Uncommon Games Showcase. In this installment, the game is Donkey Kong for the original Game Boy. Donkey Kong for Game Boy was released in 1994, and as a result, many of the fans considered this game to be called Donkey Kong 94, although that's only its unofficial name. Donkey Kong 94 was released simultaneously with the Super Game Boy and quickly became its killer app. The Super Game Boy was a device that hooked up to the Super Nintendo or Super Famicom and allowed original Game Boy games to be played in up to 4 colors at a time, although not really because 2 of those colors would have to be black and or white, and you'd only have really 2 other shades to work with. But Super Game Boy enhanced games, such as Donkey Kong here, were made with the Super Game Boy in mind, and in these modes allow a limited number of colors to be added to the games to be played. During normal gameplay, you have up to 6 colors instead of 4, and during stills, you can have up to 11 colors, which makes quite a bit of difference between that and the original black and white that you'd normally be associated with original Game Boy games. Now, over the life of the system, over the Super Game Boy, I should say, there were a few dozen Super Game Boy enhanced games that were really quite took advantage of the hardware quite well, and this is probably the one that probably got that train rolling. A bunch of other Super Game Boy games would come to follow it, but nothing would really ever match the original Donkey Kong in just how well it was suited for the hardware. So all that said, let's play some of this. So you might be noticing the Chinese text here. And that is because this is actually the Hong Kong version of Donkey Kong and not the North American or European or even Japanese version of the game. The Hong Kong release is basically the same as the North American version, but also is written in Chinese. So that's kind of interesting. It says it's made in China because most of the Game Boy games will say they're made in Japan, or a few of them will say they're made in USA, but this was made in China. So it's a Chinese version of Donkey Kong, but the game is in English, so there's no problem there. And the Game Boy games are entirely region free, so there's no problem playing it on my Super Game Boy. So putting the Chinese game into my North American Super Game Boy, playing it into my Japanese Super Famicom. So let's play some of this, and here we go. Whoops. It's always the problem with cartridges. Here we go. For the handful of games that supported the Super Game Boy, you have the enhanced color here, and you also have a special background. This is not actually possible if you play on the Game Boy player for the GameCube or the Game Boy Advance or the Game Boy Color even. This is only for the Super Game Boy. So what is Donkey Kong 94? Well, you might be thinking it's just Donkey Kong repeated again. And you'd kind of be right. I mean, it certainly starts off that way. You notice the digitized speech. That's created actually by the Super Nintendo hardware itself and is not actually present if you play it on a original Game Boy or any other Game Boy. So one of the first things you'll notice about this is the game runs much faster than the original arcade version did. Mario also has new moves. And here you can notice the 6 colors simultaneously on the screen, making this a Super Game Boy enhanced game. Second level is the infamous cement factory, or pie factory as it's sometimes known, that was missing from the NES release of the game. I died. Ooh, that was a lucky save. Ah, dang it. Let's try again. Come on, lame thing. Alright, the fourth screen. You can now throw the hammer and pick it up on higher elevations. You can fall with the hammer. Alright, so there's Donkey Kong beaten. Well, that was exciting. Except not. New exclusive to the Game Boy version, the game continues. Let's see. Okay, that's probably better. So here I can save the game, and now you have Donkey Kong 94 starting in proper. New stages. New moves. Mario can do a handstand. You can pick up objects like in Super Mario Bros. USA or Super Mario Bros. 2 as it was released for the NES in North America. Pick up the key and into the keyhole, just like Super Mario Bros. 2. And the level is completed. If you collect all 3 bonus items, you're taken to a bonus round. Alright. New move Mario can do with this whoops, I guess I can't do it if I... There we go. Let's see, how do you do this? Yeah, there we go. You can spin around. can even throw the key, and the key will act as basically a weapon that I can use to kill these mice. Oops. How am I ever going to get it? Luckily it respawns back in its original position. Ah, dang it. Try again. Throw the key upward, climb the ladder, then pick up the key again. And there we go. Let's see. There we go. I think because of its name as simply generic Donkey Kong as opposed to something that's more than just Donkey Kong. Oops, I died. Or I lost. I think a lot of people don't really remember this game that well, or it's not a real classic that people come to think of when they think of the best Game Boy games. It certainly came before Pokemon and all that. But really what you're getting here is something that's really unique and excellent for the small handheld. I don't know where all these objects are coming from. As new areas are explored, new gameplay gimmicks are introduced in these little cutscenes. So let's put a bridge here. Of course it's temporary, so let's put another one. Of course, the game is not skimpy on giving you extra lives, especially if you perform well, and in the early stages especially. Very Nintendo-like. This will create a ladder, so let's make a ladder, I don't know, right here. What away. So let's try putting it in the middle. This one will put a ladder going down. This one going directly up. Oh, dang. I screwed that up. Dang it, screwed that up too. Dang it. Alright, let's give this one more try. It's do or die. Ah. Well, you guys get the point. Even though I'm failing at this stage, it's not really that hard. It just takes a little bit of practice. And obviously I'm rusty. But yeah, this is Donkey Kong 94, original Game Boy classic that's playable on anything that says Game Boy except for the Game Boy Micro. And it will play on the Game Boy Player or the Game Boy Advance SP or whatever, but you won't get the special enhanced effects like you get here. If you play it on all of those other systems, you'll get them in 4 colors, but you'll get 4 colors like this, where instead of like the full colors you see here. It's basically, this is the Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance or Game Boy Player mode, and this is what you get with the Super Game Boy. It really makes just a little subtle difference, especially the scoreboard. Check that difference out. So yeah, this is Donkey Kong 94. It's not very expensive to buy. It's not particularly rare, but I think it's forgotten by a lot of people, and that's why I wanted to showcase it in this episode. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Now I do it effortlessly. It figures.